Hello, and thank you for watching this regional forecast for the Canadian Prairie. I'm Andrew Pritchard, meteorologist with Nutrien Ag Solutions. Well, good news here on the temperature front. We're going to be changing from this bitterly cold air mass over to one that favors perhaps even some warmth across at least western portions and southern portions of Alberta and Saskatchewan, and at least not extremely cold across Manitoba, where perhaps we don't get back to seasonally appropriate levels. Perhaps we're not warmer than average, but I would argue that breaking the color bar over here over the next 5 days with extreme cold, certainly better than just a slight cold bias by the time we get to the beginning and middle part of next week. Now, precipitation, we're going to start to move the more active region here from parts of British Columbia down here across the western U.S., but we do have a couple of features that are going to be moving through here, bringing the chance for some snow to parts of the Canadian Prairie here over the next 5 days as well. Now, as we start off looking at the jet stream, we're looking at the satellite picture here, but I want to point out the jet stream here. You can see one branch here, a very strong core of jet stream winds coming in across the western half of the U.S. We've also got what's a really good example here of upper-level divergence. What I mean by that is we've got another jet streak across the Gulf of Mexico into the southeastern U.S., where you can kind of visualize the very strong winds down here. And then not only that, but you can visualize them kind of fanning out. And when we get upper-level winds that fan out like that, that leads to rising motion through the column of the atmosphere, and that, of course, means lots of cloud cover and precipitation. So a great example there, well displaced from the Canadian Prairie. In this area, we've just got this bitterly cold air mass kind of sludging its way through the region. As we look at the radar picture here on Friday morning, we do have a couple areas of snow, most significant of which right now across southern Manitoba. The Winnipeg area picking up some snow here this Friday morning, and then we've got some light snow showers back across Alberta here, the Grand Prairie and Edmonton areas, and this may continue to spread off to the south and to the east as we head through the day today. Now, as we talk about the extreme cold, we do have some weather warnings in effect here across northern portions of Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, and that, of course, is an extreme cold warning for all of the areas that are shaded in red here, and this, again, is for wind chill values that are around 45 to 50 degrees below zero for the next several days until we get this cold air mass kind of pushed on out of here. Now, as we look at the jet stream pattern, again, here's that very strong core of the jet stream winds that I pointed out across the western U.S., what we've got here is kind of a big upper-level low that is sort of making its way back, retrograding across northern portions of Canada. And as we do that, we're going to keep flow coming out of the northwest across the prairie. That keeps us cold through the weekend, and also we've got little disturbances that are going to make their way through that flow, bringing chances for light snow flurries. So let's take the drawings off, and we'll go ahead and just play this animation as we head through the next 5 days, and I'll show you each of these little disturbances. Coming back to Friday, this, of course, the little trough that is leading to the snow across parts of southern Manitoba as we head through Friday into later in the day on Friday. We see another wave making its way through right now across portions of northern Alberta into northern and central Saskatchewan. This on Saturday. This little strong patch of jet stream winds, a little jet streak, that brings enough lift to get some light snow flurries kicked off, keeping northwesterly flow in the jet stream. So again, continuing to usher in cold air here as we get to Sunday. It's not until we get into the day on late on Tuesday that we start to see a transition here. We're starting to see this ridge move into the region. That is what brings a temporary warm-up to some regions of the Canadian Prairie. But the wild card here, what we're going to have to really dissect as we get into the early part of next week, is this system making its way quickly across the prairie as we get into Wednesday and Thursday. So early on Wednesday morning right now, we're tracking this wave quickly blasting through. There you see it, this strong core of jet stream winds that makes its way from west to east over the period of about just 24 hours from Wednesday into Wednesday night. And that is going to bring the chance for some snow to, as it stands right now, it looks like the best chance is going to be north of Highway 16, avoiding the Canadian Prairie for the more significant snow. But we'll have to watch this closely, the exact track of that one as we get into early next week. So letting you know what's out there as we head through the weekend, mostly talking about nuisance snow flurries, less than 5 centimeters of snow. But as we get into the middle part of next week, we could be talking about a more significant storm system making its way through. So looking at the high-resolution Canadian model here, just watching the snow flurry action here as we head through the weekend, watching this more robust storm system make its way out of Manitoba by the time we get to the Friday night time frame, and then just watching these snow showers make their way from Alberta into portions of Saskatchewan as we head through the day Friday into Saturday as well. Now, total snow accumulation from these very light snow flurries, this is through Saturday night at midnight. The more robust snow totals across southern Manitoba, where we could pick up an additional 3 to 5 centimeters of snow. Elsewhere, as we talk about these snow flurries, the snow showers moving through again, talking about really a trace to maybe a couple of centimeters of snow, 5 centimeters of snow, perhaps on the high side. And if that's going to happen, it's going to be over here across portions of western and southern Alberta. As we take it out a bit further, this will help us visualize that midweek storm system then and what's driving the pattern up until that point. This is the first system making its way through southern Manitoba, and then you'll watch the snow flurries continuing across this region as we head through the early part of the weekend. So here's Friday, taking it into Friday night, and Saturday, areas of very light snow continuing across Alberta and Saskatchewan, getting into Saturday night and now Sunday morning. Light snow possible across southern Manitoba as we get into the day on Sunday. This will be the last of those snow showers, the last snow flurry issues that we'll have to deal with this pattern, the northwest flow and the off and on snow showers. We'll get the ridging to come in on Tuesday. This is when we could see that brief warm-up across parts of the prairie. And then as we head into Wednesday and Thursday, this is when we'll have to track this next storm system, this quick moving low that zaps through the area on Wednesday, again bringing a chance for some accumulating snow. Right now, it looks like that would be north of the primary prairie region, but we are going to have to watch this one closely, especially as we get into our Monday and Wednesday forecasts. Now, looking at some of the ensemble solutions here, we've got the European in the top left, the GFS, the American model in the top right, and the Canadian model on the bottom here. Now, as we get a bit closer here, we'll be able to kind of hone in, but right now, the models are wanting to kind of cluster the highest snow totals here across northern portions of Alberta as this storm system first emerges early in the day on Wednesday. This is where we could be talking about 6 to 10 centimeters of snow. Right now, it looks like as this storm moves downstream across central portions of Saskatchewan and then central and southern portions of Manitoba, perhaps trailing off into the perhaps 2 to 5 centimeter range. But of course, subject to change, both the track and the intensity of this, just sort of letting you know that as we head through the weekend, mostly talking about nuisance snow. It's this Wednesday storm system that has the potential for a more significant swath of accumulating snow. But right now, the model's wanting to consistently put that north of the primary prairie region, except perhaps as we get into portions of southern Manitoba. Now, where are our temperatures headed? Again, I've talked about a brief warm-up here. We'll go ahead and bring it back, dealing with this very cold air mass still as we head through the weekend. Again, northwest flow, and that's keeping colder air kind of locked in across the prairie. Now, we'll start to build a ridge into parts of the region here as we get into, this is Tuesday, into Wednesday. We have that storm system sneak through, so a wild card there. Where we see some snow, that's, of course, going to stunt the warm-up as we head into the later part of the week, but ridging does look like it wants to hold on as we get into the middle and later parts of next week, into the December 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st timeframe, perhaps continuing to build that warmer bias, which of course would be welcome across the region. Now we're talking about a mid-December warm bias, so I'm not promising, we'll be out in the shorts and the t-shirts, but it's always nice to take a break from the bitterly cold Arctic basement this time of year. Some select cities just sort of showing this as we start in the north and the west. Edmonton, dealing with that cold air mass over the next 3 days. It's as we get into Monday and Tuesday. We start to see that warm up slowly trailing off. Of course, we could be talking about some snow on the ground there, and that would lead to some question marks here, perhaps a bit cooler with the forecast. So talk about Calgary. Again, seeing that warm up here as we get into Monday and Tuesday. High temperatures getting back above freezing by the time we get to the early part of next week. Overnight lows around 5 to 7 degrees below zero next week. Saskatoon, here's your warm up early in the week. Temperatures very cold as we head through the weekend, but starting to climb back to near the freezing mark as we get into early next week. Regina, same story, a slow warming trend climbing out of the basement over the next 4 to 5 days. And then as we look all the way off to the east, Winnipeg, really holding on to that cold air mass over the next 4 days. It's not until we get into Tuesday and Wednesday we start to see that warm up. And again, it's a mid-December warm up, so high temperatures still right around -8, -9, -10, with overnight lows slowly climbing out of the basement from -20 over the weekend into early next week to around -12 by the time we get to the end of next week. As always, Eric Snodgrass will have an in-depth look at the evolution of the next 1 to 2 weeks globally with our Monday morning ag forecast video, and that's also when I'll be back to talk about the Canadian Prairie Monday morning, checking back in on that potential midweek winter storm.